This is Scott Becker with the Becker Business and the Becker Private Equity Podcast. I'm thrilled today to be joined by a brilliant lawyer and a brilliant entrepreneur. But we're joined today by Shams Merchant. And Shams has built this incredible practice and related businesses around real estate, developers, private equity firms, and more. Shams, can you tell us a bit about yourself and about the business you've built and about MW Law?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah. Like you said, I am a real estate private equity attorney by trade and represent private investment firms across the country that structure their investment offerings, syndications, and private equity funds, particularly for real estate, but we do others as well. And yeah, I had my start in big law and transitioned out to essentially grow this practice out with my cousin, actually, who's the founder of the firm, and since then we've built this practice, but also are in the business ourselves as fund managers and investors, and so we have a very practical way to look at things when we represent clients.
Well, and talk about that for a second, because I don't think people sometimes realize how valuable that can be, that you're also a principal in things as well as an agent, in that you understand the business. Like, until I've lost money in something or done well in something, I never really understand the client's perspective until I've really been in the middle of it somehow or another. Talk about how that experience transcends into helping you really represent developers, investors, and others really well, because you just have that innate sense of the business that it's really impossible to teach unless you actually do some of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think the easiest way it translates is, sometimes lawyers, and you've seen this probably in your long and successful career, negotiate things for the sake of negotiation, right? And I think that being in the business lets you kind of have that perspective of what's actually important from a negotiation perspective and what's not, and where the risks really lie, and where the risks are just theoretical. And so I think that's what's really helped us the most.
And I think that's so right on. When I always looked at transactions and deals, that there's probably 5 to 7 or 10 things that really count. And then there's hundreds of things that people can get caught up on that really get in the way of getting a transaction done. And having that clarity of what's important to what's not, I think is so critical to what you do. You work with a lot of real estate entrepreneurs. When you look at real estate entrepreneurs, the ones that are doing really well, the ones that are struggling, what separates some of the more successful entrepreneurs from others?
Yeah, I think the most successful entrepreneurs always have the mindset of deal making, right? Of creative deal making, and I think that's how they're able to get amazing things done and accomplish what they do. It's because of they're always looking for, how do I make this work, versus kind of throwing their hands up and saying this deal just isn't going to pencil, because they're looking at it, because someone's looking at it the way 99% of people are, right? It's that 1% that are looking at it, looking at a project, looking at an opportunity in a different way. That's what separates them from the rest, and that's what creates arbitrage. That's what creates the delta that these successful real estate entrepreneurs are able to get.
People that could really pursue those opportunities, those differences, see, hey, we could do this with this, and that would add enough value to make this project work, versus somebody who looks at the cap rate and says, yeah, not worth doing because I don't see the extra opportunity or the special delta here. I love that. Talk about in commercial real estate. There's been a ton of volatility over the last several years. Where are you excited about in commercial real estate? Where do you see some of the opportunities for investors today?
Oh, I think it's a fantastic question. Right now, we are seeing a lot of uptick in transactions in the market, and because there's a lot of opportunity, and particularly the opportunity right now lies in acquiring distressed assets, particularly in the multifamily space. We're seeing a lot of action there, and a lot of clients jumping into the market to essentially take advantage of buying deals at a very attractive basis, and deals from operators that are struggling because as you might be aware, a couple of years ago, with the interest rate hikes, a lot of operators didn't get rate caps and penciled out their deals in a way that was based on the market just continually going up, and that's not really what happened. And so those operators are now struggling, and you see the articles all the time that come out and in the media, and so those are the opportunities right now that the clients that we know are taking advantage of.
100%. And people that had leveraged really highly ended up in trouble when interest rates went in the wrong direction. And there's been a flood of challenges, although not as bad as we thought they were going to be in some places. Although the big commercial office buildings in some of these cities have been a disaster, but some of the other things have come back. You get a chance to visit with both large institutional players and emerging sponsors. What are some of the mistakes or things that people could do differently when they're first really getting deeply into real estate? They're first time fund managers, they're syndicating, they're raising capital. What are some of the do's and don'ts? And any thoughts there?
Yeah, the best answer I can give you for this is the one thing I see first time fund managers or syndicators mess up on is thinking that they don't need to appear institutional, right? And what I mean by that is, look, obviously it's extremely important to have the right legal infrastructure in place. I think that's the first thing, right? But then from there, you need to also have the right marketing in place. You need to have the right appearance in place because that's what investors will judge you on, right? Investors will judge you on who's the law firm that's backing you, who's the accounting firm that you're working with, what does your social media look like, what does your pitch deck look like. These are all things that I counsel clients on all the time, and it's not particularly legal counseling. It's more, I think, more business consulting, but these are very important because these things do determine how successful they will be when they're raising capital in the open market. And as you mentioned, as fund managers ourselves, we've learned some of these things the hard way as well. And so we know where the mistakes can be made. We know how to counsel clients on setting all of these things up the right way to make sure that they're putting the best foot forward when they're approaching investors.
Yeah, I think there's so much there. I mean, the production values and how you do things, what they look like, that they're often an indicator of how professional somebody is. And you could obviously have artificiality where somebody looks really professional, but they're not.
Correct.
But more often, these things go hand in hand where somebody's presenting really professionally, but they're also taking their business of investing and engaging in real estate transactions in a very professional way, both. And you want to have both those things line up. I absolutely love that. What are some of the trends you're watching in real estate, in capital formation, in private equity that you're paying the closest attention to as we head into the next few years? I mean, what are you seeing out there? I see huge difference between some of the small funds, some of the large funds. Some of the small funds are great, some are not great. Some of the large funds are making all their money off of fee income versus actually returning profitable transactions. What are some of the things that you're watching out there?
Right. Yeah, those are excellent. Those are excellent insights. We're seeing very similar things happen. Right. We're seeing consolidation. Right. We're seeing consolidation in order for these real estate funds to build out platforms that can sustain the bases at where they're acquiring deals today, right? And the operational expertise that has to go into acquiring these deals and running them. We're seeing that that's where the delta is now shifting to, is creating that machine and that infrastructure to be able to operate these deals across the country. And so that's what you're seeing consolidation at the top tier level, right? At the some of the biggest firms, that's what's happening there. I still think that in the middle market and in the lower middle market, that there are still excellent operators, that there's excellent opportunities, especially for investors to get larger, out more asymmetrical returns because these players are plugged in to their local communities. These players are boots on the ground, and so those are some of the trends that we're seeing.
Thank you. You and your partner have developed this great reputation for being highly responsive and for sort of getting things done and having a great legal and business mind. How do you balance this concept of protecting clients legally, making sure they're aware of the risks, making sure you're negotiating the right risks with them, but also helping them to get deals done so they don't get sort of lambasted or bogged down in things that don't really count? How do you balance those things?
Yeah, I think that's again going back to kind of what we talked about. It's the benefit of being in the business and having that perspective. That's where our value really shines. Because again, we understand what risks are genuine risks and what are more risks that are just risks in theory. And so I think that's probably the biggest value that we're able to provide to clients is the practicality of negotiating deals and getting things done, and not just particularly legal negotiation, but understanding from a business perspective what's the most efficient way to accomplish something, especially in real estate investing, because we've had to probably do it ourselves at one point.
In a lot of ways, you're a trailblazer right at the intersection of law and real estate. And I love what you're doing. Take a second on what advice you would give to others that want to be lawyers but also want to build businesses. How do you manage and balance the both, so you're really good at both, and really both building a business and adding value as a lawyer? How do you balance both, and what advice would you give to others?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I've figured out yet how to balance both of them, because it is always tough. But what I would say is if you find something that you're really passionate about, for example, I went into the law because I knew I wanted to be in real estate. I just didn't know in what capacity I wanted to be in real estate. And so I decided to be a lawyer because I thought I'll go learn the legal side of real estate first. So that was always going to be my path. And so I think it's about finding something that you already have a genuine passion for, and then seeing then what other things you could do that are tangential to that outside of the law. I think that's how I think that's the best way to go about it. And so I always knew I wanted to eventually do my own deals. I always knew I eventually wanted to raise capital and do projects. And so for me, it was just from the beginning, it always made sense. But again, I think it just goes back to passion, right? Is what are you passionate about, and how do you find other things that are related to that can help you grow professionally and personally as well.
No, but I think this concept of doing things that are closely adjacent to what you do is so helpful because there's synergies. You could add value. You're not reinventing yourself six latitudes away. You're doing something else that's closely connected, where they both are synergistic to each other. I just love that whole approach. Shams, it's a pleasure to visit with you. We're so impressed what you have built at MW Law and what you're building on the real estate side. We look forward to having you back on and visiting with you more. You're an inspiration to myself. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate getting a chance to visit with you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Scott. It's been a pleasure.